As dusk settled over Whitehall, the once grand mansion known as Whitehall Manor, sitting ominously on the outskirts of town, transformed from an unsettling relic into a haunting specter. In my quest to unravel the enigma that was the Lockwood family and their imposing manor, I had stumbled upon hints of a sinister secret, the summoning of a supernatural entity. The dread associated with this entity seemed to have driven the family into a hasty exile. But what was this entity? What terrible pact did Mr. Lockwood strike that led to such a drastic fallout? My first step was to understand the entity. Using the hints found within the manor's ritual room, and the snippets of the incomplete recording, I pieced together the nature of the entity. It was an ancient force, summoned from a realm beyond our understanding, a force that fed on chaos and despair, growing stronger with each act of violence and discord. A shiver traveled up my spine as I could feel the presence of the entity stalking me. Maintaining a strong will and sense of perseverance seems to keep it at bay, as it has nothing to latch onto. Armed with this knowledge, I sought ways to confront and control it. I turned to the Echo Library, the repository of Whitehall's arcane lore, hoping that it held the key to neutralizing the entity. Deep within the library, I found an old text, the Codex of Ethereal Bonds, outlining rituals to control or banish entities from other realms. I now had a possible weapon. I guess all the torment I have experienced has finally led to something positive. Now, understanding what Mr. Lockwood had traded for this power was a more challenging puzzle. Sifting through the manor's documents, I found a contract, an unholy pact scribed in what seemed to be blood. The chilling revelation was that Mr. Lockwood had offered the entity the most precious thing he had, his family. In return, he sought power and the restoration of his lost fortune. The Lockwood family's hasty departure now made dreadful sense. Mr. Lockwood, in his blind pursuit of power, had endangered his own family, offering them as a sacrifice. When the reality of his actions dawned on them, the family fled, leaving the entity free to roam the manor. As I walked the eerie halls of Whitehall Manor, the revelation of Mr. Lockwood's unholy pact sent a shudder through me. He hadn't just offered his family to the entity, he had sacrificed them. This sent my mind spiraling back to the sudden disappearance of their loyal gardener, Thomas, and Mrs. Lockwood's dear friend. They hadn't just vanished. They had been the first victims of the Lockwood family's tragic pact. Now I paced the halls with the very being that had taken them. The entity was stalking me as I continued my exploration. I think it knew I had brought a weapon with me. The feelings of dread were more intense. My heart would race, and my body would shake. I had to keep my composure and focus on the task at hand. I would not let this thing claim me as it had the others. Discovering a hidden passage in the manor, I was led to a chilling graveyard. 3 unmarked gravestones stood, a morbid testament to the Lockwood family's fate. The family hadn't escaped. They had been consumed by the entity, a terrible price for Mr. Lockwood's insatiable greed and quest for power. But the entity's hunger was not satiated. Its lust for chaos and despair far exceeded what Mr. Lockwood had promised. I would say a silent prayer for the family. In this moment of calmness, I would have a memory race big to me. It was an old wives' tale that would echo in the library.
Beware those who awaken the shadows, for the shadows consume all, even the hand that feeds them.
As I stood in the chilling silence of the manor, now fully aware of the dark history that it harbored, I felt a deep sense of sorrow. The Lockwood family, once pillars of Whitehall, had become victims of their patriarch's blind ambition. With this newfound knowledge and power I had acquired led me to the night of the banishment. Taking one last look at the full moon, I would return inside the manor. The entity had been waiting. The immense pressure made it difficult for me to breathe. I set about my plan to stop the entity and bring this story to an end. Using the very room Mr. Lockwood had used to summon the entity, I prepared the ritual outline in the codex. The ritual room was charged with tense anticipation. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows against the ancient symbols adorning the walls. I stood in the center, clutching the codex, my heart pounding against my ribs, looking at the book Mr. Lockwood had used to summon this entity. I could finally read the title, The Sanguinary Codex. How fitting. Mr. Lockwood had to have been desperate. Now was the time for me to start the ritual. Practicing exactly as the Sanguinary Codex instructed, I would call upon the entity and begin to recite from the Codex of Ethereal Bonds. The air thickened, grew colder, as I called out to the entity. An oppressive darkness descended on the room, a malevolent presence that stole the warmth and light, suffocating the room in an otherworldly chill. I continued, my voice quivering but resolute, the ancient words of the Codex echoing through the manor. The entity emerged as an infernal vortex, its form an ever-changing whirl of shadows and malice. It circled me, each pass growing bolder, more aggressive. An icy fear gripped me as I stared into the face of an unspeakable terror. I could feel its hunger, its insatiable need for chaos and despair, gnawing at the edges of my sanity. Each whirling pass it made, I would feel colder, weaker, even older as time itself was being peeled layer by layer from me. As the ritual reached its crescendo, I stumbled over a word, a small mistake, but it was enough. The entity seized the opportunity, lashing out with a force that sent me sprawling across the room. The Codex slipped from my hands, skidding across the floor, leaving me defenseless. The entity loomed, a monstrous specter of darkness, its power unchecked, ready to consume me as it had the Lockwoods. As I stared into the face of certain death, I would be filled with the darkness from the entity. A revelation would play out before me, the world engulfed by this darkness, nothing to be left. Just then an unexpected glimmer caught my eye. The Codex, lying open near the fireplace, its pages shimmering, reflecting the fire's light. Summoning every ounce of strength I had left, I lunged for it. The entity wrapped around me. I would feel a pit in my stomach as the darkness would shroud around me. My fingertips could feel the old and weathered pages. This ignited all the will I had left. I would slide the Codex into my grasp and pull it tightly into my body. Reading from a fetal position, I would face the entity, reclaiming my strength, chanting the final verses. The room shook. A terrifying scream echoed through the manor, and with a final, blinding burst of light, the entity was banished back to its realm. The oppressive darkness lifted, replaced by a deafening silence. As my eyes adjusted, I saw a figure slumped against the far wall. It was Mr. Lockwood, his body frail and withered. The entity had been feeding off him, reducing him to a husk of his former self. He looked at me with hollow eyes, a ghost of the ambitious man he once was, his body now marked by the monstrous price he had paid for power. A frail hand lifted, trembling with exertion, as he slowly pointed beyond me. I turned to see the sanguinary Codex, still open, its pages flickering in the dying candlelight. There was no mistaking the longing in his gaze as it rested on the ancient book. Even now, at the precipice of death, it was the power he craved, the same power that had cost him everything. I would rise and approach the desk, slamming the book closed. His hand fell, the last of his strength spent, and a bitter sigh escaped his lips. I would turn to look upon Mr. Lockwood one last time. He had slumped further against the cold stone wall, the fleeting spark of life in his hollow eyes gradually fading. His body, once full of relentless ambition, now lay lifeless, succumbing to the toll of his monstrous pact. But even in his final moments, there was no remorse, no sorrow for the family he had lost, only an insatiable desire for the very power that had brought him to ruin. This tragic end was a haunting testament to Mr. Lockwood's character. A man who, despite losing his family and being consumed by an entity he himself had summoned, still yearned for the power that had led to his downfall. It served as a chilling reminder of how unchecked ambition and desire can blind even the most formidable of men to the harrowing consequences of their actions. Mr. Lockwood's rescue, and the banishment of the entity, marked the end of the haunting reign of terror over Whitehall Manor. The secrets were revealed, the ghosts put to rest, and a terrifying chapter closed. The manor, for the first time in years, felt peaceful. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by a calm I hadn't known since I first stepped foot in the manor. The Lockwood family scandal, once fodder for town gossip, was now a chilling tale of ambition gone awry. Their ancestral home, once a place of fear and mystery, was now just a building, albeit one carrying the scars of its dark past. As for me, I walked away carrying the weight of Whitehall's secrets and the knowledge of the fine line between ambition and madness. The whispers of Whitehall Manor and the tragic tale of the Lockwoods served as a haunting reminder of the price one could pay when dabbling in forces beyond our understanding.